Look, I was really ashamed to say it at the time and ashamed to have to admit. But, I think my learns were to continue to give yourself with Heads Together was tremendous. So I'm very excited to be able to work on initiatives.
Meghan Markle walked into Paris Fashion Week thinking she'd reclaim her throne. Instead, she walked into a disaster that exposed everything she'd been hiding. One unfiltered photo. That's all it took. Within hours, plastic surgeons from London to California were analyzing her face on live streams. And what they found wasn't just shocking, it was impossible to ignore. Her nose, her eyes, her jawline, even the way her earlobes sat against her face. Every detail told the same story. This wasn't aging, this wasn't good genes, this was something else entirely. And here's the wildest part. This transformation's been happening right under our noses for years, we just didn't notice until now. Quick thing before we dive in, the comparisons I'm about to show you are insane. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you don't miss what's next. Drop a like if you're ready to see what the experts actually found. Let's get into it. So here's what happened. Those unfiltered photos from the Balenciaga show started spreading across the internet like crazy. We're talking minutes, not hours. And the glossy, polished version of herself that she'd spent years perfecting, gone. Just like that. One candid shot, no filters, no perfect lighting, and suddenly everyone could see what's really going on. Look, when you compare her appearance from 5 years ago when she was 39 to now at 44, something's off.
Let's talk about the nose of the beautiful Meghan Markle. The defining characteristic of Meghan's nose.
Yeah, she looks more youthful in some ways. Her face seems lifted and more defined. But here's the thing, it doesn't look right. The proportions are uneven. Her jawline's way too sharp. Her cheeks have this hollow, sunken quality that's just not natural. It's like someone cranked up the settings too high on a photo editor. Except this is her actual face. And professionals noticed immediately. Top plastic surgeons from London and California started breaking down what they were seeing, and they weren't holding back. One UK surgeon went live and pointed out the lifted eyes, the tightened jawline, the pulled neck. A California cosmetic expert echoed the exact same observations. These aren't things you can get from skincare or drinking more water. This is surgical intervention, plain and simple. Get this, they identified specific procedures. Upper and lower blepharoplasty, which basically means work done on both eyelids. Her upper eyelids are way more visible now, and her eyes have this almond shape that wasn't there before. Then there's the comprehensive face and neck lift. You can see how everything's been pulled tighter, especially around her neck and jaw. But it gets more detailed. Her nose, completely refined. The bridge is narrower, more structured, and it's got this defined slope that wasn't there in older photos. That's rhinoplasty. And check out the distance between her nose and upper lip. It's noticeably shorter now, and you can see more of the pink part of her upper lip. That's a lip lift, another surgical procedure.
I myself thought that Meghan Markle didn't have plastic surgery, but after studying her photos, I did see some.
Here's something most people wouldn't catch. Her earlobes. Yeah, I know that sounds weird, but the position of her earlobes has shifted slightly. That's actually a telltale sign of facelift incisions. Surgeons pointed this out because it's one of those tiny details that gives away the work. Listen, this wasn't some overnight transformation. What we're looking at here is months, maybe even years, of strategic procedures done in stages. You don't just wake up one day with a completely different facial structure. This was planned, calculated, and built up over time. Each procedure carefully timed to create this new version of her face. Now, this whole thing started way before Paris. If you go back and look at photos from her 20s, she looked completely different. So back in her 20s, she had this whole different vibe going on. Softer features, rounder face, fuller cheeks that gave her this warm, approachable look. Her nose was wider, less refined, and she had these natural freckles that just made her seem, relatable, like someone you'd actually meet in real life. It was a completely different aesthetic from what we're seeing now. Then came the Suits era, and things started shifting. Her features got sharper, the nose suddenly looked more refined and sculpted. Her chin had this subtle contour that wasn't there before, and her teeth blindingly white, perfectly aligned. At the time, it wasn't dramatic enough to make people stop and question it.
Hey, surgery besties, let's talk about Meghan. In my entertainment opinion,
But if you're paying attention and you look at those photos side by side, the difference is pretty clear. Hollywood insiders were already whispering about it back then. Small procedures here and there, a little rhinoplasty, some filler, nothing too crazy. Just part of the climb from cable TV actress to someone people actually recognized. It's almost like she was building herself piece by piece, tweaking things as she moved up the ladder. But here's where it gets interesting. When she stepped into that royal life, the whole aesthetic changed again. Gone was the Hollywood bombshell look. Suddenly she's got this polished, elegant Duchess thing going on. Minimal, refined, impossibly curated. Even her skin looked different. Those freckles she used to show off in photo shoots, they just vanished, replaced by this airbrushed, porcelain smooth complexion that looked almost too perfect. Listen, every phase of her career demanded a new look, and she delivered every single time. It's like her face was a brand that needed constant updating. New role, new face, new chapter, new features. Her appearance wasn't just evolving naturally, the way everyone's does over time. It was being actively edited, sculpted, marketed like a product launch. Each reinvention came with a slightly different version of her, and the crazy part is how gradual it was.
Focus back to her gorgeous eyes and her beautiful smile. A nose really can't make you beautiful because she was already
Nobody really noticed because it happened in stages. A tweak here during Suits, a refinement there during the royal years. It all added up so slowly that most people didn't catch on until those Paris photos dropped, and suddenly everyone could see the full scope of what's been happening. Her beauty wasn't aging naturally, it was being reconstructed piece by piece, phase by phase, always in sync with whatever image she needed to project at that moment. And now? Well, the recent changes tell a completely different story. So here's the thing, her projects started falling apart one after another. That podcast everyone was talking about quietly disappeared from schedules. The big streaming deals that were supposed to cement her Hollywood comeback, they just fizzled out. The momentum she once had completely vanished. And her name, which used to guarantee headlines and attention, stopped carrying the same weight it used to. Industry insiders noticed the shift. She went from being someone everyone wanted to work with to someone struggling just to stay in the conversation. It's like watching someone's star power drain away in real time. The buzz died down, the calls stopped coming, and suddenly she's fighting for the kind of visibility that used to come effortlessly. Now listen, when someone like her starts losing relevance, they don't just accept it and fade away.
How I look? Yes, I am high maintenance, but I think you gotta be. And frankly, I'm very proud of how
That's not how it works. She pivots, she reinvents. And that's exactly what this latest transformation was about. It wasn't vanity, it was survival. She needed to stay visible, stay relevant, stay in people's feeds somehow. So what does she do? She aims for the high fashion crowd, the Paris runway scene, the designer elite, the kind of circle that could give her a whole new identity and rebrand. Reinvention's always been her go-to move, and this time she went all in on that polished, elevated aesthetic that screams fashion icon. But here's where it all went wrong. Instead of looking like a confident comeback, it came off as desperate. The new face, the exaggerated sharpness, the too smooth skin, it wasn't aspirational. It was uncomfortable to look at. People didn't see someone making a power move. They saw someone fighting way too hard to hold on to something that was already slipping away. And behind the scenes, sources say the fallout was rough. When those unfiltered Paris photos started spreading everywhere, she reportedly broke down. I mean, think about it. For someone who's built everything on image control, seeing that control completely evaporate must have been crushing. She wanted to look flawless, untouchable. But what she saw staring back at her was a stranger, someone she didn't even recognize anymore.
To the knife before her Paris disaster trip designed to traumatize.
For her, image has always been armor. It's the shield she uses to navigate everything. So when that armor cracks, when she loses control of how people see her, that's not just embarrassing, that's everything falling apart. Because losing control for someone like her means losing everything she's built her entire persona around. And that's what made the Balenciaga move so risky. So she picked Balenciaga for this comeback moment, and that choice wasn't random. The brand's been dealing with its own controversy, and in her mind, controversy equals attention. Sometimes any buzz is better than no buzz, right? She probably figured aligning herself with a major fashion label would give her the visibility she was desperate for. But man, did this gamble blow up in her face. That white, oversized outfit was supposed to scream high fashion and avant-garde sophistication. Instead, it just looked chaotic. The harsh runway lighting didn't do her any favors either. It exposed every detail she was probably hoping would stay hidden. And that slicked back hair with the strained smile, the whole vibe came off as manic, not chic. Social media had an absolute field day with it. Within hours, she was trending, but for all the wrong reasons. People started comparing her to everything: a paper towel roll, runaway laundry, escaped gift wrap.
Did Meghan Markle get some sort of nose job or plastic surgery? That is a question I have been asking myself.
The memes were brutal and relentless. Every single frame from that night became ammunition for people to point out how disconnected from reality she'd become. Here's what killed the whole thing, though. It wasn't even about the outfit. It was her energy. That forced confidence, that hollow expression, that desperate need to fit into a world that clearly doesn't want her there anymore. You could see it in every photo. She wasn't owning the moment, she was surviving it. And then came the headlines. Get this. Her team's favorite outlet ran with Meghan Markle quietly attends Balenciaga show. Quietly? Are you kidding me? There was nothing quiet about any of it. The 5-star hotel she stayed at got leaked online. Her seat placement at the show was perfectly calculated for maximum visibility. Multiple photographers were conveniently tipped off about exactly where she'd be and when. This wasn't some spontaneous appearance. Every single detail was orchestrated for PR. The paparazzi didn't just stumble upon her, they were invited. Outlets were alerted ahead of time to make sure her low-key reemergence would dominate headlines within hours of it happening. Now here's the irony that's almost too much. For years, she's been preaching about needing privacy. She's built this whole narrative about escaping toxic fame and just wanting to live a normal life away from cameras.
Yes, I mean, of course she has. She's never actually said I have, but you can see because...
But watching this Paris stunt, she looked pretty comfortable with all that attention she supposedly hates so much. The stage spontaneity was so transparent. A woman who once made privacy her entire brand just turned her life into a glossy public spectacle. The whole privacy queen thing officially died in Paris that night. Because what she's always called privacy was never really about boundaries. It was about control. And once that control slipped away, the whole act fell apart. But the fashion disaster wasn't even the worst part of what those photos revealed. Those Paris photos didn't just show surgical work. They revealed something way more concerning: the physical toll of pushing things too far, too fast. Her skin looked thin, almost fragile. Her cheeks were sunken in a way that just doesn't happen naturally. And that jawline? Unnaturally sharp, like someone took a chisel to it. This wasn't the glow of someone who's taking care of themselves. This was something else entirely. And people noticed immediately: the rapid weight loss, the hollow features, the weird strained tightness around her mouth. It all pointed to what's been haunting Hollywood red carpets lately. You know the look I'm talking about, that gaunt, over-sculpted aesthetic that screams extreme methods. The internet started connecting the dots pretty quickly, whispering about that supposed miracle weight loss solution that's become a celebrity obsession.
News is out. Meghan is acting again, and you'll never guess who she's playing.
Here's the problem. When you combine that kind of dramatic weight loss with recent facial procedures, it creates this catastrophic effect. Instead of looking youthful and refreshed like she probably imagined, She just looked exhausted, fatigued, fragile even, like someone who's been through something intense and isn't coming out the other side well. Her body slimmed down dramatically, sure, but her face paid the price for it. That softness she used to have, the thing that made her seem warm and approachable, gone, completely replaced by these harsh lines and this lifeless quality in her expressions. Fans who used to talk about her natural glow were now admitting she looked drained, unwell even. And listen, she probably thought it was all working. In her mind, this was the transformation she needed, the reinvention that would get everyone talking again. But to everyone else looking at those photos, it was a warning sign, a flashing red light saying someone's taken things way too far. She crossed that line. You know the one, the fine line between refinement and obsession, between enhancement and desperation. What she thought would be her dazzling comeback, the moment that would silence all the critics and prove she still had it. It turned into this visual cautionary tale about what happens when you chase perfection at any cost. Because here's the brutal truth.
Hey, she's gorgeous. Has she had anything done? So we're going to look today, and in fact, I have a little quiz for you.
When your entire identity depends on looking perfect, you end up chasing that ideal until it literally breaks you. And Paris didn't just show her new look, it showed someone unraveling in real time, trying desperately to hold on to something that was already slipping through her fingers. And the public, they didn't hold back. The backlash hit fast and it hit hard. Those photos flooded every corner of social media and the comments section. Absolutely savage. She looks older, not younger. What did she do to her face? She ruined herself chasing fame. People were not holding back. And honestly, even her most loyal defenders were struggling to find something nice to say. The usual crowd that would jump in to protect her just went silent. That silence said more than any criticism could. The woman who used to radiate confidence and poise now just looked hollow, stiff, exhausted. That emotional warmth she had, the thing that made people actually connect with her, completely gone. Replaced by this plastic, artificial sheen that made her look detached from reality, like she was performing being herself instead of actually being herself. It's that uncanny valley effect, close enough to human, but just off enough to make you uncomfortable. And here's what made people so angry, the hypocrisy of it all.
So, did Meghan Markle just debut a new nose in her birthday post? That's the question
This is someone who built an entire empire on empowerment and self-love. She's talked endlessly about authenticity and being true to yourself, about accepting your flaws and embracing who you are. But looking at these photos, the contradiction was impossible to ignore. The disconnect between her words and her actions became glaringly obvious. Fans didn't feel disappointed because she aged. That's not the issue at all. Aging is normal. It's human. They felt betrayed because she refused to own it, because she preached one thing while doing the complete opposite. She told everyone else to love themselves while apparently not being able to do the same. That's what cut deep for people who actually believed in her message. The backlash wasn't just about beauty standards or physical appearance. It was about the message she was sending to everyone who looked up to her. She spent years talking about mental health, body positivity, being comfortable in your own skin no matter what society says, building this whole platform around self-acceptance and inner beauty. And then she shows up looking like she's been swallowed whole by the exact industry pressure she claimed to rise above. That's what hit different for people. It felt like a betrayal of everything she supposedly stood for. But listen, this pattern isn't new.
What did you do with your face? Prince Harry utterly shocked as Meghan Markle's face disfigured after plastic surgery fails.
If you've been paying attention, every single version of her tells the same exact story. A woman constantly at war with herself. Every time her career hits a rough patch or her reputation takes a hit, she doesn't stop to rebuild or confront what's actually wrong. She doesn't do the internal work. She just rebrands. New look, new angle, new narrative. It's the same cycle playing out on repeat, just with different details each time. Suits ended, face changed, royal life got complicated, look evolved, Hollywood comeback struggling, newest transformation emerges. It's always the same sequence. Pressure builds, criticism comes, reinvention follows. Like clockwork, you could almost predict it at this point. She doesn't deal with problems head on, she edits them out. Literally sculpts them away instead of addressing what's actually underneath causing all the turmoil. And get this, experts have started calling it image addiction. This constant, obsessive need to perfect the reflection instead of working on the actual person behind it. It's like being addicted to a filter, constantly tweaking, adjusting, trying to find that perfect version that'll make everything okay, but it never does. Because the problem isn't the face, it's everything else. Here's the thing people don't realize. You can tighten a jawline all you want, but you can't tighten public opinion.
This picture, and I want you to look and see, is there anything that you see that might say, oh,
you can lift your face, but you can't lift your reputation. You can sculpt your features into whatever shape you want, but you can't sculpt how people perceive you or what they think about you. Every cosmetic fix just makes her seem more and more removed from the relatable person people originally connected with. The distance between who she was and who she's become just keeps growing. The more procedures she gets, the more artificial she looks. The more she tries to look real and authentic, the faker she becomes. It's this weird backwards effect where trying to appear genuine has the opposite result. Her reflection stopped being a sign of confidence a long time ago. Now it's just this desperate mirror of insecurity. A constant reminder that she's never satisfied with what she sees. She's sculpting herself into someone she thinks people will love, someone she believes will finally get the approval and attention she's craving. But in doing all that, in chasing that idealized version, she lost the person people actually did love, the one who didn't need all the work, the one who was enough just as she was. Because at the end of the day, none of it works. Here's what it all comes down to. She doesn't want evolution. She wants an eraser. Think about that for a second. Evolution means accepting change, growing with it, letting yourself become something different naturally. But an eraser, that's about...
Y'all, I was just sitting here minding my business today and my phone started going bloop, 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 because apparently Meghan Markle showed her face for the...
Deleting, removing, pretending the past version of yourself never existed. And that's exactly what's been happening here. Every single tweak, every procedure, every modification strips away another piece of who she actually was. It's like watching someone slowly erase their own identity, line by line, feature by feature. And now, there's barely anything authentic left. It's all been surgically removed, reshaped, reconstructed into whatever version she thinks will work this time around. Each cosmetic fix pushes her further away from the woman people originally rooted for. That relatable quality she used to have, gone. That warmth that made her seem approachable, vanished. That spark that made her interesting in the first place, completely edited out. She's turned herself into this weird paradox where the harder she tries to appear genuine and real, the more artificial and plastic she looks. It's like watching someone dig themselves deeper into a hole while genuinely believing they're climbing their way out. Look, her reflection used to mean something. It used to be about confidence, about owning who she was. Now it's just insecurity staring back at her every time she looks in the mirror. She's not sculpting the person she actually is. She's desperately trying to morph into the person she thinks everyone wants her to be.
Tip bulbosity. Now, the shape that we see on the outside when we look at someone's nose has to do with how...
But here's what she doesn't get. In chasing that impossible, ever-changing ideal, she lost the person people actually connected with. The one they cared about, the one who didn't need all this work. And none of it works. That's the truly tragic part of all this. You can lift your face, reshape every single feature, smooth out every line and wrinkle, but you can't fix how people perceive you. You can't surgically alter public opinion. You can't inject confidence like it's filler or sew in authenticity like it's a procedure. All those modifications and procedures just made the disconnect between who she is and who she's trying to be even more glaringly obvious. Get this, she could have owned her entire story. She could have aged gracefully, embraced the imperfections that come with being human, and become the relatable figure people would have respected even more for it. Think about how powerful that would have been. A woman in the spotlight, dealing with all this pressure, saying, yeah, I'm aging, wrinkles are happening, my face is changing, and I'm completely okay with it. People would have eaten that up. They would have loved her for that vulnerability, that realness. Instead, she chose the complete opposite path. She went all in on chasing this perfect illusion that doesn't even exist in reality. And in pursuing that fantasy version of perfection,
that Meghan Markle went under the knife before her Paris disaster trip.
she lost the thing that actually mattered, herself. The real version of her. The person people saw genuine potential in before all of this cosmetic work started piling up. The saddest part? She's become exactly what she's always seemed afraid of becoming: irrelevant. But not because she aged or because her face changed naturally. She became irrelevant because she stopped being real. She traded authenticity for perfection and lost both in the process. People can forgive aging. They can't forgive fakeness disguised as authenticity. Every time she looks in the mirror now, she's probably searching for that perfect version of herself she's been chasing for years. But what she's actually seeing is a stranger. Someone who looks vaguely familiar but fundamentally different. Someone who's been constructed and reconstructed so many times that the original blueprint is completely lost. Because here's the brutal reality nobody wants to hear. You can modify everything on the outside, you can change every visible feature, but if there's nothing genuine underneath, holding it all together, what's even the point? She's built this incredibly carefully constructed shell, this perfect exterior that's supposed to make everyone love her again. But there's nothing inside it anymore. Just the desperate, exhausting need to maintain an image.
Has a great curl to her hair. She has a youthful infrabrow fullness. She has a flatter nasal bridge
that never actually worked in the first place. She wanted to be timeless. Instead, she became a cautionary tale. She wanted to stay forever young. Instead, she showed everyone exactly what happens when you refuse to age with grace. She wanted people to see perfection. Instead, they see desperation. And that's where her real tragedy lies. So at the end of all this, what are we actually looking at? Beneath all those designer gowns and perfectly curated moments, there's an emptiness that no amount of surgery can fix. Her entire existence has become this elaborate performance. Each role carefully scripted. Each appearance meticulously planned down to the last detail. Everything calculated for maximum impact. The actress, the public figure, the entrepreneur, the icon, all these different versions of herself, all sculpted and staged and packaged for consumption. But here's the thing, none of them feel genuine anymore. You can see right through it. The polish is so thick that there's nothing real left underneath. She had every opportunity to do something different. She could have aged with grace, could have maintained that authentic connection people originally felt with her, could have been the woman who showed everyone that getting older doesn't mean becoming irrelevant.
When an image does more than just trend, it detonates. For Meghan Markle, that moment came when rare, unfiltered photos from her
But instead, she chose to chase this impossible standard that was never real to begin with. Look, you can modify every feature. You can smooth every line, restructure every angle, lift and tuck and refine until you're staring at someone completely different in the mirror. But here's what you can't do. You can't manufacture authenticity in an operating room. You can't inject realness. You can't surgically create the kind of genuine connection perfection that actually makes people care about you. Her real tragedy isn't what she's done to her face. It's not the procedures or the transformations or even the disasters like Paris. The real tragedy is what she's done to everything underneath. The loss of substance, the erosion of anything real. In desperately trying to become everything to everyone, she ended up feeling like nothing to anyone. And here's the wildest part. The greatest reinvention she could ever attempt would be the simplest one. Just accepting who she actually is. No filters, no procedures, no carefully constructed narrative. Just being real for once. But that's the one transformation she'll never attempt. Because being authentic means giving up control. And for someone like her, that's the one thing she can't do. So yeah, that's the story. Paris was just the moment it all became impossible to ignore. But this has been building for years.
People do this motion. So when you're doing this, when you do this motion, right? This motion.
And honestly, it's not over yet. She'll reinvent again. She always does. The question is, will anyone still be watching when she does? So what do you think? Did she go too far, or is this just what happens when you're fighting to stay relevant in an industry that moves on from people faster than ever? I'm genuinely curious what you guys see when you look at those before and after comparisons. Do you think it's about insecurity, or is it just the price of being in the spotlight? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. I read them all, and I want to know where you stand on this. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, do me a favor and smash that like button. It actually helps more than you'd think. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're diving into more stories like this. The kind of stuff everyone's talking about, but nobody's really breaking down. There's so much more coming. All right, I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.